there are two parts to it. We have SuperOffice has this API for connectors. It's a .NET API, and SuperOffice ships a DLL containing a quote connector, and it implements the API the same as everyone else. There's no special treatment of the SuperOffice connector. The difference is that instead of talking to an ERP system, like most of the sort of third-party connectors would do, it talks to the SuperOffice database. So it has its list of products and sort of configuration options stored in the SuperOffice database instead of in some ERP database. So in the next talk, we'll look more at the upper part, how you make a connector that talks to sort of another system. So, clear so far? So I apologize for the voice. I managed to catch a cold during the night, so if I lose my voice sometimes at around 2:30, we'll go over to doing something else. We'll watch YouTube videos. Okay, so the licensing in SuperOffice is it's broken down like this. You have a quote license. So if you don't have the quote license, then the feature set would be one of these two. And then there's the other license, which is the integration server license, which is what turns on the ERP integration. So if you don't have either quote or integration server, you get SuperOffice, which is very similar to 7.1. The main features are integration server and quote. So if you just have the integration server license but no quote license, you get the possibility to have ERP tabs on the company card and on persons and projects, and you can synchronize information with an ERP system. But you don't get any quotes. There's no quote functionality on sale. So if you have quote licenses, but no integration server, then you get to make quotes, and you get to make quotes based on what's in the SuperOffice database. But there's no third-party functionality. So, but if you have both, then you get to make ERP connections and sync information back and forth, and you get to add your own quote connectors as well. You can make custom quote connectors and so on. But in order to do that, you have to have both licenses. Clear so far? Quote licenses are per user. So if you have 5 people who want to mess around with quotes, you need to buy 5 quote licenses. Integration server is per site. So there's like one license covers the whole thing. Because since you're syncing information back and forth, we can't say like, only you can see this information. That would be a bit strange. So one's a site license, the other one is per user. Okay. So that's the one we're going to focus on right now. And the next talk will focus more on the bottom part. So now a demo, and if I'm really lucky, Wood has a working setup, and we can set up a quote menu. Has anyone seen demos of this? Yes. Are you bored of it yet? Yeah? No, you're bored of it. Well, I'm going to tell you more about it. So everyone get out your pillows and those little red things that you have.
Just I can't find the connection. I can't find the registration.
There's no registration or anything. So
okay.
It's dynamic.
That's why it's complaining.
Let's see. Make this work. No.
Recopiered. Var det inte bra på Macen plötsligt?
Escape.
Escape.
Var det inte på Macen då? Ser det inte bra plötsligt på Macen då?
No. See, the problem here that we're struggling with is the Mac here thinks the projector can only run at 640 by 480. Let's see. And we had everything set up on this, and then it turns out the projector doesn't work. Moved everything over to the machine, and then someone dropped a hard disk on the floor. It's been one of those mornings. Intel VX. Why is it not? You've ever seen that? It doesn't matter. I can run Eric's demo. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about this. If John Rowling can't log in here, I'm going to have to send one of you to get the password info from Come interrupt Eric giving his presentation and tell him, what's the password? All right, so here we go. For the licenses, we have a quote management license here. That turns on the quote tab here. And we have a connector. And so, let's see, here we go. Hello.
Does it work? Shush.
Yeah.
Works. Actually,
Yeah.
if you can recall, we had the collaboration and SDK licensing things we had from the beginning.
Yeah.
Customers had to buy or do something with license. I can't recall that we are selling those licenses. They were just one thing.
Well, they're at the moment they're included sort of automatically.
Included.
Yeah. But that's during the beta period. As soon as this stuff goes into production, then those so from New Year's those licenses will disappear.
Okay.
So then you have to pay for it. So it's just there so that you can sort of start, get some experience with it and try it out. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't the disk with the VM on it.
It was.
Well, I'm running the VM here, but we'll see what happens.
License, this code license, is it for everything or anyone? You look at the codes for those licenses.
You can look at the quotes for that license. So why do you take the disk? You go get his own damn disk.
Kjørte på disken.
Yeah, okay, so we'll see how screwed we are. But, okay, so the thing I wanted to focus on here so these things here are the configuration options for the built-in, the standalone connector. So here we can say, if you try to sell something that's not in the assortment, like that's not active on the price list anymore, what should happen, like what sort of reaction should we get? So we can say, trigger the needs approval thing, or you can say, no, you're not allowed to sell something that's not on the price list. That should be an error. And that means you block the entire sort of, transaction. Like people won't be able to send out a quote with something that's not in the assortment. So similarly, you have for price lists, if somebody's trying to sell something off a price list which is no longer active, like you have a Christmas price list, and somebody makes up a quote before New Year's, and then tries to send out that quote after New Year's. The price list is no longer valid; it's no longer active. So it only lasted till New Year's, and at the point when they made the quote, the price list was active, but when they try to send it, it's gone. It's no longer working. It's no longer valid. And what should happen then? Should we say it's okay, but you need to get approval from the boss, or you can just tell them like you should be aware, or just ignore it, ignore the problem. So you can configure all this stuff, and there's some options for price lists, and there's some options for sort of individual products on pricing. So as you add discounts to things, the list price is kind of reduced, and you can set various limits. So you have the minimum price, one limit, and cost price, which is just another number. So you can have different reactions depending on which number you go with. So you can say minimum price is something that triggers a warning, but it is illegal. It's not allowed to sell something below cost. Like that's a no-no, forbidden. So you don't even get to ask the boss. You just say, like, nope, that's impossible. And then also, if you try to kind of, if you forget to include anything in the quote, for example, or prices at zero, prices on, that should be something that we handle separately. And credit, negative numbers on your quotes should probably also trigger a warning. So that's the configuration part, like setting up the rules. And these rules kind of are specific to SuperOffice. Like if you make your own connector, you can make different rules configurable. But this is the ones which are sort of shipped in the box in SuperOffice. Questions? Yeah. So the other thing is, in order to edit the quotes, you need a quote license. But you also have this ability to filter connections by users and groups. So you can say, you can have multiple connections. This is not, at the moment, not terribly useful with the SuperOffice connector. We're going to try and make it a little better in the future. But you will be able to say that this connection is usable by, this bunch of users. Like if you have a connection to the German ERP system, you can say that connection is only available for the German users, like the people in the German user group. And the Norwegian ERP connector is available only to the people in Norway, users in Norway. So you can have multiple connectors, but separate them sort of by user group or by individual users. Because the quote license only activates the functionality, doesn't say anything about which ones are usable by whom. So you have those two dimensions. Like you have to have the license and you have to have access. All right.
Maybe we should add that this can also be used to give different user groups different rights. As we just showed.
Can you use the same input instead of multiple times?
Yes.
How would you have that connection exactly from?
Did you also say that these properties of this dialog is coming from the connector?
Yes. So the let's see, I just need to find the presentation. I have this on here.
Gå på disken again.
Yeah. That's it.
Då kommer den in. Jag sitter långt tillbaka. Men image är rätt på disken.
Do the silly thing and switch back and forth. Okay. So, connections for quotes. So, if we have the sync connector, if we have a sort of a sync set up with an ERP system, we can say that this quote connection corresponds to that sync connector, so that when you connected a company in SuperOffice to a company over in the ERP system, we can say that, oh, that's the same system that we're using this ERP connection to talk to, like this quote connection. And so what happens is when we do place order or kind of communicate with the quote connector, we can tell it like, oh, this is the company ID in the ERP system for the company that you're working with. And this makes it much easier to do customer-specific discounts and things like that. You need to know what's the company in the ERP system that you're making the quote for. So knowing that correspondence, setting that up here, makes life a lot easier when you're sitting inside the quote connector. If you don't have that corresponding set up, we can just give you the information that SuperOffice knows, which is like the name and the serial number or something in the SuperOffice database. It doesn't tell you anything about what that corresponding system or company is in the ERP system. So you either got to go look it up and guess based on the name, if you the right one, or just give a generic discount. You don't have access to all the ERP systems. So does that make sense so far? Okay. So yes, the security thing we talked about must have a CAL, and you must have that scope thing set up so that you have access to the connection. And yes, the quotes, I showed you that at the bottom of the dialog, the different drop downs. These are sort of a fixed set, and hopefully those are the right ones. Like if you find that the built-in SuperOffice connector is too limiting, or there's more stuff, it would be great if it could do X. Tell us, and we can try and improve it. We want this to be ideally the SuperOffice connector will help people get started, and we don't see that everyone's going to need an ERP system. Like there's a whole bunch of businesses out there which don't have products and things in ERP systems. They have them sitting in spreadsheets and on PDFs. I remember we went to visit one company. They looked at their external website. That was their process. So they looked at the public website and said, we use the same function as all our customers. and I punched it into a spreadsheet. That was their sort of order registration. The SuperOffice warning setting here is special because it's linked to a workflow that's kind of defined inside the SuperOffice connector. So if you set warning needs approval, that kicks off a special state on the quotes. It says this quote can't go forward until it can't be sent or published as an order until it's been approved by someone who has the function right on their role, which is can't approve quotes. And this right is not active for anyone sort of initially, so you've got to pick a role and say, like, these people are the ones who approve. It's not sort of a built-in admin like you do. Or when you configure the roles specifically for that. So then anyone who has that function right can sort of go look at a sale, edit the sale, and or edit the quote and say approve if it needs approval. Yep.
Does the person that can approve quotes need to have a license? It's not obviously not creating any quotes, but just looking at it and approving it.
No, they because they're editing the quote, they must have a license.
Only
Very complicated.
approve it.
Yeah, true, but
It's also edited.
yeah, it's also edited. So yes, we would like that line. It's true. There's no reason you could probably, but at the moment it's locked down, so you must have the access license in order to edit the quote.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
So, just mentioned
you know,
must approve things and
Send feedback to Erik Eide or
of course.
these are business decisions basically. So let's see. Field configuration. You saw a bit of this yesterday. I will bore you with some more. So let's see if we can switch the cable around. There is just advanced. Yeah, check the go over to the second highlight. So here. So you see here it shows kind of the field names that we've configured. So you click on that or click on the button and you get the full list. And so what we see here is there's a checkbox that says show this field. Basically, is this field in use? And down at the bottom, it says hopefully, there's the scroller. There's more fields. So you'll see some of these fields aren't active by default. So like extra fields, these are, the extra fields here are just string fields. They are for partners, you guys too, you can use them for anything that you can. The idea is that if you have a system which requires a little bit of extra information, that's where you can stash that. It's not a full user-defined field system, it's just like a couple of extra fields. You can say these fields should be editable by the users, or they for display only. In which case, you say show them, but don't make them editable. All of these things, all of these fields can be renamed and given additional tooltips in multiple languages. We can also change the order of them, and that'll affect the quote dialog also. We can say.
One more thing about the extra fields. You can get them out on the document, on the template, on the quote. That's a good thing with that.
You can say wait, for example, and say you want that at the top. And we have these things like category and family. Supplier is not shown.
Why isn't it drag and drop? We're using the arrow key.
We're old-fashioned. Also, drag and drop is not that discoverable, and
It's just intuitive, you know, everybody uses it now in different systems. Like the
on iPhones and
Yes.
iPads, where
Can I
you
focus on the API?
Okay.
no, drag and drop would be nice, but so far our experience has been it's like people like the buttons. They're-
Can you move multiple?
Yes, I think you can.
Yeah. Series? No. You have to do some magic with pointing at something.
There we go.
This. Oh, that's nice.
The there we go. Enable label substitution. Turn that on and off. That affects whether you see the translations or not. So this is kind of the default setup for what fields to show and what rights to give them. So for example, we say description is in general not editable. It's not something that users can change. It's something we type in when we define the products. So this shows up in sort of in the products dialog here when we make price lists or when we add products. The order of fields here is pretty much the same as we sort of defined in the other dialog, and this is also the same order of fields that we show in the quote line dialog when we're editing stuff there. So here, for example, we can we can type stuff in. Here's the weight field, which we moved up from the bottom. You'll also notice the fields, which even though they weren't visible or marked as being in use, sort of, are still shown here, so that you can record the information for analysis purposes. You can sort of record the supplier without necessarily showing it to the user. Like you can keep the end user experience simple, but still have the information available for searching or for selection.
For them.
Yeah, or to use in the document templates. All right. This configuration, the setup is all stored in the SuperOffice database. The connector is not involved here at all. This is generic functionality that applies to all the connections. All right, so let's take one of these execs, like the, let's see, okay, the 1 week in Maldives. All right, so we'll see here we can type in the description. We turn on this override field access, we'll see. By default, the field is not editable because we've set that up as the default. Right? We can say we had, what was it? Let's call it service. Right. Number of hours, costs 1,000, at least. Minimum price is 500. Cost 250. Description is, let's leave that blank. Let's say this field should be editable so that when the user comes along and adds one of these, you can type in the description of what the service actually was.
Can you add, sorry, can you add more units?
Yes, this is just a drop-down list. You can even, you don't have to type in here, choose from a list, you can add your own. Like this is just a, like the Mr. Mrs. list is just a combo box of suggestions. So you can say, you know, days for,
Oh, the
Weekends.
yeah. Weekends. So neat.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
no, it's all in negative way.
Oh.
You shouldn't want that. That somebody can just type in boxes or something like that.
This is just for the administrator. Users aren't going to type in the UI.
Nope. You notice
No,
the
so this is
there's
the-
no editable checkbox
No.
next to this one. This is
It's the same list, so they could type it. But,
users can't. This is administrators when you're entering the products in the database, SuperOffice database. Users cannot change that value. Like it's locked.
because the same problem with the list is the list is talking about. Somebody can type in something.
Absolutely. And then you cannot describe every personal, sort of status or relationship in like one single list.
It's only a problem if you need to search on it, right? And
No,
you want to
it's
search
a-
on everybody,
you want
Dr.
a single
Rachel.
type of entry.
Always the same.
Mhm.
But what if the guy is different then? You suddenly have a German German customer and he has
Then it
this
should go to the
document.
manager, like the approval of things, and go to the list manager, and he should say, okay, we're gonna say that all guys from Germany are also Mr. and we're not gonna name them Herr or Hen. So,
Sometimes that
I don't know.
intrudes
Oh.
part.
So one list that's not the
All
same
right.
as the other parts.
I'm gonna have to take you with that.
Yeah.
So the other thing here is supplier is a pointer to in the SuperOffice database. It's a pointer to a company. That's sort of another company record. Basically. In the ERP, generally in the API, it's basically just a string. So if you have synced toward a different ERP system, you can you put any company name you want in there. It could be like could be anything. But in the SuperOffice connector, it's a company name from the SuperOffice database. You have a little searcher here, and you can go up and search for the company name.
So the search would be for all companies in
Yes.
the database?
Yeah. So, and again, you can make that editable if you want, but usually be read only. Let's see, okay. And also here you can see discount is one of the fields we can override. But we cannot provide a default value for. So the discount, this field is a little special. It's basically just allowing us to control the editing rights. So yes, so for example, you have some product where the user is not allowed to give a discount. You can turn it off. You can say this for this product, discounts are read only. That will turn off sort of editing on discounts or the other calculating fields.
It also controls the earning fields, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're all. We'll get to that.
Discount, total, earning, all the same.
Okay. So price lists, they have, as mentioned, they have a currency, and they have a sort of, are we using this price list or not flag active. We can set a range of dates to kind of limit when the price list is active. Also, we can say it's active, but only within this time period. What we're going to add is,
If you have a product that has special pricing during a period,
yeah.
is there some way to override the normal pricing, or do you have to choose from separate lists?
You have to choose from separate lists. So one of the things we have, it's like, we thought of this and then didn't think far enough. In the database, there's a possibility for price lists to be connected to a particular connection. So you'll see here, these list of price lists applies to all the sort of SuperOffice connections. If we have two different connections, they share all the price lists. So one of the things we need to add is the ability to say, like, set up different connections and say, this connection has one set of price lists and this other connection has a different set of price lists. So you can have a German connection with like German prices and a Norway connection with Norwegian prices. Because at the moment they kind of overlap and you end up with too many price lists. It becomes a little bit confusing for the user. So, but that's, we'll try and get that in by the release candidate. Okay, let's see. So good.
No, they're not. They are stored in SuperOffice, and we are not actively translating anything, are we?
What?
Exchanging the values. We ask
For-
where the currency rates are coming from.
Oh, the currency rates are coming from the currency table.
So every sale is translated into the base currency. But
For SuperOffice, recording on the sale and stuff, like they're just numbers basically. We convert them insofar as we when we're doing when you're copying price lists inside SuperOffice. So when you decide to convert one price list into a different currency, you make a copy and basically do a calculation there. But
if you have sales in multiple currencies, spending time.
then you have multiple sales, different sales. You have one sale in currency A and a different sale in currency B.
Yes, but if it spends time and exchange rate goes up and down.
That's we don't care. Simple. Right? We can figure the sort of how many fields and how complex something is by turning off the one we don't care about. The configuration is shared across all the different connections. So if you have an ERP system and SuperOffice connection, they will set up the basic sort of setup which fields are used, and that applies to both of them, both the ERP system and SuperOffice connection. So yeah, I'll show you this. See if we make the services editable. So this lets us do things like this. Yeah. So that in general, descriptions are read-only, but for this particular product, the user can edit it and sort of fill it out. And the way this is stored in the database, here, but we can say basically there's a product table, and each product has a name, and it has a special rights column, like a field called rights. And in there's basically field name equal, and then a letter code, which says like this field is writable or readable or hidden, mandatory. So you can chain a whole bunch of these together, and that's all there is to it. Basically. This write string can be in SuperOffice is stored in a database. The ERP connectors that you program can also fill out this and have this per product field right calculation done for them. Questions? Just scratching your head. So price list, each price list has a currency. There's a separate copy of every product in the price list, so catalog as some people even call it. We don't have a sort of one product and then multiple prices structure. We come to a very, very simple way of doing things. So if you think we're completely wrong, well, you should have told us when we did the alpha. So every price has list cost and minimum prices per unit, and in assortment checkbox. When we make a quote, when you sort of say add this product to the quote, and we go search up the product in the product table, and we make a copy of all the information in the product table over into the separate table called Quoteline. And so there's a one-to-one correspondence between most of the fields there. So all the fields in the product get copied over. And there's a couple of fields in Quoteline that are not in product, like the quantity, how many you want to buy, and what kind of discounts you want to give. So those only exist on Quoteline, not on product. But all these fields get copied over when you sort of add the product. If you then later on change the product, the Quoteline is not affected. So, keep it going. Yeah. Boring. quote types. So this is like third or fourth time you're seeing this. But bear with me. Go through this quickly. We have on sale type. We've added a bunch of new types to contain all these defaults. Default values. The defaults control whether or not you can add alternatives. Is that some? Are alternatives something that you think people will use? The sort of ability to have variations on a single quote. Okay, so 1, 4. Maybe, okay, 2.5, 3. Okay, so it was worth doing. Okay, good. Yeah. The other thing is how long is the quote valid? So this is basically a default, and how long before we call you up and say that the quote's no longer valid. And then default templates for the detailed documents. So this is something that hangs on the sale type. So we're imagining you would have sort of simple sale or complex sale services types, and you have different layouts for the quote lines. So these are the documents which determine what quote lines are used, or how they are shown to the user. So everyone went to Monix Talk before, right? So how about attachments. Play with animation, get burned. So default attachments is a way to kind of pick up documents you already put into SuperOffice, and so to say, always include these documents with quotes that you send off. So you can use the add button, it digs up the find document file, and point to some document that you've already created in SuperOffice, and say, always attach this. Or you can say, always include it, but don't attach it by default. You can make it, you can change, you can set the sort of whether or not you include it default also. So these documents all sort of get added to every quote that you create without this sale type. And then when you send the quote off, they'll all be sort of attached to the email as Eric showed you yesterday.
What history? You have all the year-old quotes that you want to look at to see what we were really offering then. And you change the attachment, default attachment. Are you keeping links to the things you have there?
No.
Or is it just?
So when the emails, presumably you're using Mailin and you'll archive the emails if that's really important. But the PDF that's generated doesn't contain all the attachments. It contains just the main document and the details. So the email is the one that sort of gets all of these documents stuck on it. And if you want to keep exactly what you sent to the user, you archive the email.
What about language management? If I generally say, for instance, Danish, English, Norwegian.
So then you would have to add sort of English, Danish, Norwegian, because templates have this multi-language capability I mentioned this morning, but the documents don't. And so this came up actually, and so we have a proposal for redoing this, change the functionality, but rewriting takes time.
Can you do attachments against a particular product? So for instance, some kind of legal standards that every time a product goes out?
No. Although that would be nice. But no. When you add a product, you cannot sort of add attachments, unfortunately.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
To have a document describing the product.
I should make a note.
Someone was fought for that feature and lost. We can't do that.
Do you have events when adding products?
Yes, well, not events as such, but there are methods called on the API. So the connector gets called, and the connector is the one that actually has to do the job of filling in this the product. You know, that the this copying process here, like in the SuperOffice one, it gets in kind of the product information that's filled in, and the connector gets told, make a quote line from this one, please, and copy the information over. But the connector is free to, like, if you write one yourself, you can do whatever you want, and you can add more stuff here. Approval. So the final thing on the sale type is approval rules. These are general rules which they apply no matter which connector you're using. So even if you're not using the SuperOffice connector, these rules apply. So these are different from the ones we looked at earlier, which are set specifically on the connection. And so where we have the little drop-down list of warnings or errors or so on when you exceed minimum price. These are things which apply to the total on the whole quote. So for each alternative, we'll take a look at the total and take a look at the total earning or total discount. We'll calculate the total discount, and we say, okay, you can require approval by basically fire off the workflow which says someone must approve this if the total discount is over X% or earning is below 5%. So we think that's a useful sort of a basic workflow system, and it's a way to kind of enforce some limits. But they're not tight limits. You can always get approval to say no, it's okay, or you can say I don't care about limits. Go to 100% discount if you want. But these apply no matter which connector you use. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Okay. Document templates. You've seen this, yes. we can skip this. Okay.
Code email.
Code email and core documents. I mean, there's five different variations on code. When you open up the quote template dialog, you can the checkbox says this is a quote template, and then you get to pick exactly what type of template is this supposed to be. And the one that's most interesting is the first one, which is the one that the user gets to type in. The others are actually hidden from use. They're just used internally, like when you're producing them. You can't sort of make one of these from scratch. You can access the other ones from the right dialog. Just the top one. So these are not useful without all the information from the actual quote details. So they're only useful when you're kind of sending out the product or sending out the quote.
This quote mail.
Yeah.
Using the email format, where you can.
It's an HTML file. So
Okay.
it gets sucked in as an HTML and stuck into the
You
computer.
can make what's it called template variables in it.
Yes. So they're just like sort of mail templates and the rest of SuperOffice. But they're a way to kind of specify body text, for like here's the quote you asked for the quote. Including logo and lovely signature, which seems to be very important for marketing.
Maybe you can mention that the two last are for the order confirmation.
Yeah, so that's the, so there's quote, where all the bullshit goes, and then, and then quote lines and quote mail are when you send the quote, and then the last two order are when you place the order. So,
Christian?
yeah.
The emails, today you have the option to have your own mail signature or the SuperOffice signature? Will that apply to those, templates as well?
I honestly have no idea.
I know some companies have bought some kind of signature application people can put in ads for the current period. Some might wish this.
I have no idea. I'm sure our lovely assistant in the background will make a note and transfer it.
How close is this sending out with email? I can imagine that in some cases you want to send out XML to the house and send
Yeah.
over type or confirmation type instead of email.
Yes, it's like quite possible to. You don't have to use email. That's kind of what happens is when you click on. This is what I get for send quote or place order will kick off kind of a little set of calls to the connector. But the document correction is handled sort of for you. So if, for example, when you click on send quote, it will pick up the quote template or the quote document that you wrote, pick up the quote line, the details template, merge those together, make a PDF, and then attach the PDF and all of the attachments that you've marked off on, and put them all into a mail message and send that off. And then after it's done that, you will call the connector and say like, okay, I've sent the quote and here's what I sent. And in there, the connector has the chance to go off and talk to the back end and say like, oh, we've made a quote now and here's the information. So the connector has the chance to stay informed, but it doesn't have a chance to kind of influence the generation of the document.
That is happening on this, but
Yeah.
you can set it after.
Absolutely. And also there's a second option, of course, is you can say, don't send an email, just archive the PDF. This one. Just stick that in an archive. And in the future, there will probably be other options that sort of appear there. But at the moment, it's archive the PDF or send an email. So you'll always get a PDF. There's no way around that. But you can, and then at the same time, you can, after the send quote function, you can create, a quote document on a website or something. Make a note of that. Place order is a little more involved. There, of course, the connector has to do all the work. So if the connector says, you don't have to send an email, I can send an email on your behalf. There's a capability that says, I can produce email. If the connector says, I take care of the email, we don't generate the PDF and stuff. That doesn't happen. We make a note for the order number and sort of a description, and then we call the connector to say, okay, now place the order, and here's the information. The alternative that we use one, and it's up to the connector to kind of send the email and record the information in the ERP system.
Can connector receive an order number back from the ERP system, so we can connect that to the sale?
Yes. So okay, that's administration.
Follow up.
Yep.
Is there some method to call it later, or you could also connect to the invoice number that was sent 1 week after? Because invoice number is the only one that comes on the phone.
All right. Yeah, kind of. We'll get a bit of that. Okay, so you've seen this dialog by now several times. You say create a new quote. You get a list of these are the connections which are available to you. Some of them may not be available because the sale is in the wrong currency. That this, you started a sale in US dollars, and some connections don't have price lists. They don't have any products for you in that currency, so they get. If you have problems, if there's something missing from the installation, you'll say, I'm sorry, I can't use this number, so it's turned off. But the SuperOffice one should always be there, should always work. So it's sale currency is kind of the determining factor there. Okay, adding products. You've seen this. Does anyone want to look at demo? Yes. No? Good. Okay.
Just adding the color. Click add and
Yes.
name something and click save.
Hmm.
Okay.
No. Why?
I got it.
I woke up this morning with a cold and I was just like, oh, this is going to be perfect.
Yeah. Well, okay.
We're on the home stretch now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
I hacked Eric today. I got this.
There we go.
Should we install Visual Studio on this computer just to test it? Let's see.
They are. So let's keep saying. Code. We'll add some stuff to it. Let's see. So yesterday Eric showed you, the quick search here. So we can search for service. And that was show you this one. So, or what was the other thing we had? Pens, right? Pen. Cool. That's very nice. And see here, the can't change the description. It's read only. But we can change these things. Save and new. We also have this small one there that gives us a sort of advanced search. So here we can, what happens here is SuperOffice actually goes off and asks the connector, like, do you support advanced search? Like, do you have complex searches, not just sort of name-based searches? And if you do, then that button fires up the little dialog here, and we again ask the connector, like, okay, what fields do you have? And so the list of fields that we get here is
Just click add.
yeah. There. So that list of fields comes from the connector again. And so SuperOffice comes up with a list of the built-in fields that are in use. So you can say, okay, let's search on these things. But you could also, you could have other fields which are in the ERP system, for example. So they don't have to be in the SuperOffice database fields. They could be something in a different system.
Oh, temperature or whatever.
Yeah.
Stock information.
Yeah. That's what stock information.
That is fine. And then actually, there's a little trick here. If you select a bunch of them and say, okay, they will all get added to the and then you can open it and you can sort of step through and fix them. Or that one. Or this one. And what was the other one we searched for?
SVC.
Yep. SVC. Yes, 4 weeks of service. And then the description here is looking very but of course, you know, no, that's almost 3,000. But you know, we can change this. We can say 3,000, and it'll calculate the other stuff. So it'll do the calculations in reverse. Yes, isn't that nice? Similarly, earnings. So all this stuff is linked. You know, so we say, oh well, 666. You know, the devil's earnings. That's 60%. And it'll calculate. So we think that's nice. So again, this is all happening every time we change one of these numbers and tap out. The connector gets called and is told, you know, okay, we changed such and such field. You know, do you want to change anything? So the quote line gets sent back and forth to the connector every time you touch something. So that gives you lots of flexibility, lots of power. Okay. All right. So then, when we click send, something magical happens. We get these send out. What happens first is there's some functions called. We'll get to that. Behind the scenes, the connector gets involved then also. So one of the things to notice on the in SuperOffice, we have this unit field, which we got some feedback on. There's actually 2 unit fields in the dialog. There's one for quantity and one for price. So SuperOffice sets them the same always. So like the quantity and price is always the same. So if you enter in your 3-pack of tennis balls, that's what you buy, and that's the price that you listed for the 3-pack. If you have an ERP system which knows about sort of what size something is and how many are in it, you can decouple these. You can say, we sell stuff in 3-packs, but we list the price, you know, per tennis ball. Now, SuperOffice can't do this because it doesn't have any sort of room or capacity for keeping track of this. But if you're writing an ERP connector, so based on a system that does know about this, you can enter this stuff. Useful? Or, so, but you need to handle the conversion stuff yourself. We have no idea. We don't want to know. But you can fill these. There are 2 separate fields. You can fill them out separately. But SuperOffice will always kind of set them, keep them in sync.
We wanted to, but it wasn't brave enough.
So every time we change stuff, you know, we call the connector to do calculations, and then this guy does the calculations for us and sends the result back. So it's easy. Actually, there's a little static class in the plugins DLL which contains the calculations. So if you reuse our logic that handles all this stuff for you, you can just call this little class, the quote calculation. Very handy. So but all of these are linked. So discount amount, discount price, earning amount, earning percentage, the total, and of course the quantity and the cost of the list price. Like if you for some reason made list price editable, you could change the list price number. That will also fire off the calculations. Yes.
Since this is a difficult topic, If you serve food for 14%,
Yeah.
15% VAT,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have 1 hour of service as in labor or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or bottle of alcohol.
Yeah.
So the VAT change on all lines involved.
Mm-hmm.
Can connector with Amazon calls to the connector that will do that scenario.
Yes.
I'm so glad to.
So yes.
Yes. I love it when it comes on.
Yes, absolutely. When you change quote lines or more, and then when you finish and you say save, you get the call that's recalculate alternative. And yeah, and then you're supposed to look through things like this and do what's correct. And we will accept whatever you do. You can take away quote lines, and we do. You can add quote lines, we do. And you can change them or reorder them, whatever. We will accept. We will respect that.
So yeah, so there's one call that happens when you're changing the fields on one quote line, which is kind of focused on that one quote line. And then when you close the quote line dialog, a recalculate call is made. It's a recalculate the alternative that we've just been changing. And there you can sort of look through all of the quote lines and mess around with any one of them. Okay? We're almost done. We're almost done.
But we don't have the VAT.
No, at the moment we don't. Well, we don't calculate VAT inside our connector. We do, or we're going to calculate VAT for the document. So you'll get if you have put in sort of 25% on in the VAT field, we will generate sort of the template tags and the values that says, okay, the 25% VAT means that the total for this line, including VAT, is X. So those are just for document production. So when you're creating the details document, you can include fields which say, like, here's the total including VAT. But there's nothing stored in the database that says, like, here's the total VAT or something. So the database, the SuperOffice database, and the sales is all excluding VAT. So, but let's see. When we send a quote off, when we push the send button, the little dialog comes up. What happens first is there's a call to the connector which says, validate this quote for me, basically. Figure out what is the what's the state, like is this quote okay to send? And if it says okay, then if the validate call succeeds and comes back into the inventory, then the sending the send quote dialog appears, and then the documents are generated and the email is sent off. And then finally the connector gets told, like, okay, we've sent on after send quote version, we've sent this version off, we're done, you can do whatever you want, but you can't affect kind of what's happened. But validate is where you can get, you can sort of check out, is everything okay? So if validate comes back and says, like, no, this is bad, this is not okay, then the send dialog doesn't appear. You get an error message instead and saying, like, no, you need to fix this or this. And you can also, you change the workflow. You can say, like, this one requires validation, like approval from superior. So that happens inside validate quote. We will go into more detail on this. Updating the prices is something, in the earlier versions, we talked a bunch about this and doing it in recalculate. We figured out eventually that updating prices, copying new information from the price list into the quote lines, is something that happens explicitly. Like, the salespeople don't want prices changing under their feet. They want to be in control when that happens. So that is a separate button in the dialog. You see at the bottom there, there's like close, and next to it there's update prices. Push that, and we call a method called update prices. Push that one, we call a method, and make a little call one method to say update prices, and we'll get new numbers from where the SuperOffice one will go into the SuperOffice price list and get numbers from there. Then afterward, it will recalculate on each alternative. It will say, okay, figure out what's the new total on this, what's the new total sum. And then finally call validate to find out, okay, is this new, are the new prices okay? Like for example, in the meantime, for example, the price list might have become inactive, and so you might want to indicate that this quote is no longer good. Can't be used anymore. Alright. So the first one updates the values inside each quote line. We calculate, make sure that these numbers down here are correct. And then finally validate, make sure that the icon on the top is consistent with the number that you see on the screen. Place order, we talked about. Same thing happens first, but before we place the order, we have to make sure that it's okay. So the validate gets called again. And the action tells us that we're now placing an order. So we can be stricter when we're placing an order than when we're just sending a quote. If validate says everything's okay, then the place order dialog shows up. You can sort of fill in PO number and description. And then when you click OK, then the place order function gets called on the connector. Now SuperOffice, of course, doesn't have an ERP system to talk to. So it says, I don't do place order. So you still get the place order dialog and stuff, but the final call to place order on the connector doesn't happen. There's a capability on the connector which says, can you do place order? If you can't, then the last thing doesn't happen. But everything else does. The validate gets called and the place order dialog always shows up, no matter what the connector server says. But the actual call to place the order, to generate the order in the ERP system doesn't happen. All right. And finally, after you've done all of this with placing the order, you can have get order state. There's another capability that says you support this. And so, assuming you place the order in an ERP system, you can then get back, ID of this order in the ERP system. What's the database record in the ERP system? Make a note of that on the quote. And then later on, when the user sort of opens up the quote, you can say, refresh, get updated data. SuperOffice doesn't do this because it doesn't have an ERP system to talk to, but if you did, you can then go off and get new data, you can get more information and show it to the user, basically by updating the records that you passed. So that's what you were asking about. So there you can fill in additional information or the delivery status.
How does this show?
Will show you. But it shows just as it shows in the quote dialog, it's in everything else.
It looks like a standard version.
Yeah.
One with one and only one alternative.
Okay. So we've gone through all of these things and hopefully seeing it for the fourth time on board you still. But does it make a little bit more sense? It's like it's taken us a year to build this, so it's like we want to show that. Again and again and again. Okay, so there'll be a break, and then we'll come back here if you want more. Then Tor will debug and show how this works. Ja, altså, du kan gå og spørre, eller spørre ERP-systemet. Ja. Men jeg kan ikke ønske det bare sende informasjon videre til ERP-systemet. Ja, ja.
for you.